when you think about secret missions in World War II, you're probably picturing commandos, right? Sabotaging bridges, raiding enemy lines, that kind of thing. But what if I told you one of the most important missions of the entire war had nothing to do with spies or saboteurs? Instead, it was a small team of scientists on a quest that would literally change the map of the world. And believe it or not, their story is the reason the phone in your pocket works.
It's a weird question, I know. I mean, on one hand, you've got this piece of destructive, totally analog tech from the 1940s. And on the other, the super sophisticated satellite system you use every single day. The link between them seems, well, impossible. But it's real, and it is one heck of a story.
That's the answer right there. The story of how your phone knows exactly where it is. It all starts with a tiny, secret U.S. Army unit. They were codenamed the Houghteam, and their job was to hunt down and steal the Nazis' most valuable scientific treasure.
Now, to get why this mission was so absolutely critical, we've got to go back to 1944. The Allies are pushing across France, they're heading into Germany, but they have this huge, invisible problem that's costing lives every single day.
Okay, so here's the heart of the problem. For centuries, every country in Europe was super secretive and kind of jealous about their map data. The result? A perfectly good Allied map of France just did not line up with a perfectly good German map of Germany. The second you crossed the border, the grid coordinates would shift, so a target that was supposed to be right here was suddenly way over there.
And this had absolutely devastating consequences. I mean, think about it. Long-range artillery was one of the Allies' biggest advantages. But if your maps are junk, your aim is junk. 2 out of every 3 shells they fired at targets over the horizon were completely missing. That's not just inefficient, it was getting people killed, both Allied troops and civilians.
The whole solution came down to this one technical concept: geodetic control. Now, what is that? Well, think of it like the skeleton that holds a map together. It's a massive network of thousands of precisely surveyed points on the ground that anchors the map to reality. The Germans had spent decades meticulously creating this amazing network. The Allies, they had almost none of it. To win the artillery war, they had to get their hands on Germany's data.
So the U.S. Army did something totally unprecedented. They realized you couldn't shoot your way out of this problem. You had to think your way out of it. They sent out a call for a totally new kind of soldier to lead a totally new kind of mission.
And this is the guy they found, Floyd Hough. He wasn't some famous general or a war hero. He was a quiet civil engineer, a government scientist who'd spent 20 years in the super specialized field of geodesy. He was, basically, the perfect person to lead a team of scientific detectives.
And here, in his own words, Hough just lays out the mission, plain and simple. It was audacious. Follow the front lines, get into captured German territory as fast as possible, and find their mapping data. Exploit what the enemy left behind to give Allied artillery an immediate edge.
Now, Hough's team wasn't just scientists. It included these incredible guys known as the Ritchie Boys. Many of them were Jewish refugees who had literally escaped Nazi persecution. And now, trained as U.S. intelligence operatives, they were using their language skills, their knowledge of the culture, to go back and fight the very enemy that had destroyed their homes. For them, this mission was deeply, deeply personal.
And just like that, the hunt was on. As soon as Allied troops cleared a city, the whole team would swoop in, sometimes on the very same day. They were racing through bombed-out ruins on this high-stakes scavenger hunt for scientific intelligence. And they hit the ground running. In Aachen, the first big German city to fall, they found an absolute treasure trove. The retreating Germans had bundled up stacks of their most precise survey data, ready to ship out, but they had to abandon it all in the chaos. Hough's team immediately microfilmed it and sent that data straight to the guys on the front lines. The places they found this stuff, honestly, it sounds like something out of an Indiana Jones movie. They weren't just finding documents in filing cabinets, they uncovered data literally buried in the dirt, hidden behind fake walls that were blackened with soot to look old. And, in one case, stacked right on top of the ancient bones of monks in a monastery catacomb. They even found a massive haul of crucial info hidden under a pile of rotten potatoes in some guy's basement.
But all of these incredible finds, they were nothing. Nothing compared to the ultimate prize. Through interrogations and just listening to chatter, the Houghteam heard a rumor that the Germans had hidden their entire geodetic archive, all their military maps, all the data they'd captured from all over Europe, in one remote village called Saalfeld. This was the jackpot.
And they found it. Tucked away in some old warehouse was a scientific treasure beyond their wildest dreams.
And the sheer scale of it was just immense. It took 35 2.5-ton trucks to haul it all away. And this wasn't just paper maps. It included 7 state-of-the-art Zeiss stereoplanographs. These are giant, complex optical machines worth, get this, almost $7 million in today's money. But here's the really crazy part. They were on a clock, a serious clock. The team found this massive cache on April 17th. But under the Allied agreements about how to divide Germany, the town of Saalfeld was scheduled to be handed over to the Soviet Union. They had just 3 weeks to get everything out. As the last American truck loaded with priceless data was racing out one side of the village, the first Soviet tanks were literally rolling in on the other side. So, okay, the Houghteam mission was a massive win for the war effort, no doubt, but its true impact, that would only be felt in the decades to come, as this captured data became the secret foundation of our modern world.
So how in the world did that happen? Well, it's actually a pretty clear path. First, all that captured German data gets combined to create a single, unified map system for all of Europe, called ED50. For the very first time, the entire continent had a common grid. Then, that system was expanded into what's called the Universal Transverse Mercator Grid, or UTM, the first truly global coordinate system. And that global grid? It's the direct ancestor, the grandpa really, of the precise location technology that we all rely on today.
And what this data made possible, it's just staggering. During the Cold War, this was the data that let the U.S. targeted ICBM from a silo in Montana and know with precision it could hit Red Square. It formed the basis of the NATO military grid we still use, but it was also used for civilian stuff like oil exploration and huge ecological studies. As one historian put it, this whole system was, essentially, GPS before GPS.
And yet, here's the thing that just blows my mind. Despite pulling off what some experts have called the greatest coup in the history of geodesy, the story of Floyd Huff and his team is almost completely unknown. Because the mission was secret and the data was so technical, their monumental contribution to history has just been forgotten.
So, the next time you pull out your phone to get directions, just take a second and remember the Houghteam, a small group of scientists and refugees who raced across a war-torn continent, hunting for a scientific treasure hidden under rotten potatoes and stacked on monks' bones. And in doing so, secretly laid the groundwork for the world we all live in today. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?